This isn't the first mayoral race for our next candidate, and that is Scott Stringer. He made a go for the seat last time around in 2021. Now, Stringer brings his extensive resume to the table, serving as city comptroller, the Manhattan Borough president, and a member of the state assembly. Mr. Stringer, good to see you again.
Nice to be here.
I want to talk about what's playing out in real time, the unrest that's happening in Los Angeles as protests and immigration agents clashed over the migrant arrests. Here in New York City, we're seeing the same thing, right? ICE agents have been arresting those that are down to simply going to immigration court. The NYPD had to step into some of these protests and arrest some of the folks that were there. So what is the NYPD's role in protecting federal law enforcement as they undertake deportation actions?
Well, look, this is a real tragedy that's unfolding in American cities around the country. Donald Trump is making performative arrests, taking innocent people off the street, people who are very much a part of America. They live in our cities, and it sets a very dangerous precedent. And look, the next mayor is going to have the experience, the know-how to deal with Donald Trump. And the real agenda here is to collapse the social safety net of the city. And I'm going to be the one to fight back and protect all New Yorkers.
But the NYPD, should they have a role in any of what's playing out right now, especially when it comes to the protests?
Look, NYPD always should have a role when it comes to managing protests. But the NYPD does not have to be complicit with ICE agents in these endeavors. It creates a dangerous situation for the men and women of the NYPD to be involved in this kind of work. And I do think there has to be a separation there. But of course, when there's a protest and when we have permits, we should also make sure that the police are there to protect the protesters and also protect the public.
What would you do if the president enacted the National Guard? We're seeing that play out in real time in California now. The National Guard entering Los Angeles, as well as the military. The LA mayor, as well as the governor, saying it was to cause chaos. What would you do if you were mayor and that were to happen here?
Well, look, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. When I become mayor, we're going to work to organize the business community, the labor community, to begin to talk to federal officials and federal allies about some of this intrusion that we've never seen before. The National Guard is there for national emergencies, and they should be deployed. A flood, a hurricane, some episodic event. But patrolling the streets as armed thugs is not what we should be about. And the people need to trust our military, they need to trust our police, and this is just not the way to go about it. Now, look, a mayor is going to have to be smart and sensible and calm because this president wants to have this confrontation, and I think I have the skills and maturity to deal with him.
But can you stop it? Can you stop the National Guard from coming in if he orders it?
We'll go through every legal channel to try to slow that down, but ultimately, if the president has the final authority, there are some things he can't stop. By the way, the best way to stop Donald Trump is to win the congressional midterm elections and begin to dismantle this insanity.
Another big issue playing out in real time is the anti-Semitism we're seeing on the rise. NYPD says 60% of the hate crimes in the first quarter of this year have been targeted to Jewish New Yorkers. What do you attribute the rise in anti-Semitism to?
Well, look, this has been a long time coming. This is not new. Anti-Semitism has reared this ugly head in our city. In the same way, we've seen this with other groups of people who have also had to deal with this. But look, the anti-Semitism has to have a zero-tolerance label from the next mayor, and I will do that. I am a Zionist. I am raising 2 Jewish kids in the city. I want them to be safe. I want their friends to be safe. And look, the problem with Andrew Cuomo is in our hour of need as Jews on October 7th, when this was our most vulnerable moment since the Holocaust, he came roaring into this city and said, I'm here to help. I want to educate people on anti-Semitism. I want to give people the tools they need to combat this. And you know what he did? Set up a phony committee, raise money, and never delivered for any Jewish New Yorkers. I find it disqualifying for him as mayor.
Mayor Eric Adams just signed an executive order to change the definition of what is anti-Semitism. I don't know if you got a chance to read it, but would you uphold that, or would you look to get rid of that executive order?
I'm not going to do anything right now to weaken anyone's decision on anti-Semitism.
So it was the right move?
Well, I think Eric Adams is also performative as well. I mean, he's setting up, he's doing everything. The problem with Adams and Cuomo is they're trying to go after the Jewish vote in the most transparent, obnoxious way. And as a candidate who happens to be Jewish, I would just say to them, thanks, but no thanks. Just leave us alone and let us find our way. But this is totally political. Cuomo with his phony organization, and Eric Adams with his third-party run, which is a party that's ridiculous.
Mayor Adams also signed a declaration of intent to create this deal between New York City and Israel to have a council to strengthen economic ties between Israel and New York City. Would you continue that council?
Well, look, I think that's very intelligent and smart. And by the way, Israel has been the economic engine for the world and also for New York City. In fact, as comptroller, I didn't divest from Israeli bonds. I bought more of them because Israel is a good economic investment for New Yorkers, for our pensioners, for our retirees, and for the world economy.
I've heard you talk about housing many times. We've talked about it many times as well. And it's a bold plan, you call it, but with practical ideas, right? Using public land to build affordable housing, seizing properties from bad landlords, and then, this is key, using $40 billion of funds to fix NYCHA. So here's the thing, how much housing is getting built at the end of a 4-year Stringer term?
A lot. But here's the thing.
But what's a lot?
Well, let me tell you. So first of all, here's what's not happening. Everyone comes in and promises 500,000 units. Then 1 million units. I could sit here today and say, no, 2.5 million, but that would be totally ridiculous. I think the average production is about 20,000 per year, 25,000. I think we could double that production, certainly build a few 100,000. But it's not just about housing for housing's sake. I believe that the market, the density laws, the city of yes, will certainly move production for housing that is middle class and up. I'm focusing on the housing. My plan is to focus on the housing that we actually need for working people, for young families. I want to build more 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom apartments so young families with that second child can actually stay in New York. It's part of my economic plan, which is affordable housing on vacant lots that the city owns. But then don't stop there. We need tri-share childcare. We need to baseline 3K and pre-K, extend the schools till 4:30 so parents have the ability to continue to be in the workplace and also give the kids the extra help they desperately need.
So a lot, but now no specific number.
Look, I think it'll be in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
But what I don't want to do is start off an administration that just tells New Yorkers that I made a lot of campaign promises that I didn't know how to fix, and I'm not going to do that. A lot of this will depend on federal dollars coming out of NYCHA. There's a lot coming for NYCHA and other pots of money. Let me be mayor. I'm a fiscal expert. I know the city government. I know what we can do, and I know what we can't do. My housing plan on vacant lots, we can do immediately.
A lot of folks are talking about how they don't want to ride the trains because they're afraid to ride the subway, right? And there's this new idea now to have this involuntary removals of some of the folks on the subways. How aggressive would you be in that plan, and where would those folks go?
Look, I've said we should hire 3,000 cops. Certainly, that would help us reduce the overtime from $1.3 billion back down to $650 million. So we would save $650 million. But those extra police officers could then be used to ride the trains so that people feel safe and there's a watchful eye. We could also then use those savings to really drill down on a mental health initiative that will help people who are suffering on the subways. Some people have to be taken in, even if they don't want to be, to preserve their life and get them the medical attention they need.
How aggressive would you be on the involuntary?
I would be careful. I would be serious about it, always protecting people's civil liberties. But if I feel that there's somebody, or we feel there's somebody who is about to harm someone or harm themselves, we have to take action. Can't live in a bubble, can't live in a world where this doesn't happen.
I've heard you talk about federal dollars that you're going to need, right? And there's a few folks that you would need to work with very closely to get certain dollars. Of course, one of them being Albany and Governor Hochul. Does Governor Hochul deserve a second term if you were to be mayor?
Yes, and I will have an excellent working relationship with her. Look, Andrew Cuomo can't get along with anybody, and that's to our detriment. We need a mayor who understands Albany. I'm a former state legislator for 13 years. I chaired the cities committee, so I was always thinking about New York City and the big cities around the state. I also know what Albany can and can't do as well. So I believe that I'm the best qualified to go to Albany and fix those relationships. Could you imagine Cuomo sitting down with Hochul? It's not going to work. Just not going to work.
And then the other person you'd have to have a good working relationship with would be the president to get some of those federal dollars you talk of, right? Can you, if you were to become mayor, would you meet with President Trump within the first 100 days?
I'd meet with him in the first week if he wanted to. One thing has nothing to do with the other. Look, I'm drawing the line in the sand. We're not going to allow Trump to be in our business. But when he cooperates with us, we will cooperate with him. We'll cooperate with Hakeem Jeffries, our future speaker, Senator Schumer. We'll work with all of our stakeholders. Look, you know, my relationships with AOC and Nydia Velasquez and Jerry Nadler, all who have ranked me in this campaign, I'm going to work with them as well. And we have to build a coalition to go to federal government and the state. We did this before in the 70s, where Gerald Ford told New York to drop dead. You know what we did? Our forefathers and mothers, you know what they did? They organized. They strategized. We don't do that anymore. We don't have a mayor who leads. We have a mayor that follows and is usually under the thumb of Donald Trump.
What is something that the president is doing right now that you actually agree with and that you would like to work with him on?
What's the next question?
Okay. So there's nothing.
Right now, I think he is sowing more chaos between the tariffs and the economic challenges and the loss of so much of people's personal savings and equity, or at least, at the very least, the fear of that, is just sowing so much division in this country. I never thought I would live to see this. I certainly don't want my kids to live through this. We need to fight back.
So on certain things, like the plan for involuntary removals, right? The plan to get housing done, the plan to hire more police officers. I'm listening to you very carefully. Where do you get the money from to pay for some of those things?
I thought you'd never ask. So here's what we do. If we're going to have a mental health initiative, we reduce overtime by $650 million. That's what the 3,000 cops represent. More police officers, less having to recycle them into overtime situations. There's also money that is allocated in every budget, $115 billion. You have to know what we can and cannot do with that. And then you have to fight for more, whether it's fighting in Albany or in Washington. But look, the budget can be managed with somebody who actually understands the agencies. Yes, I want to initiate savings in the agencies. They call them pegs. I call them efficiencies. That saves a lot of money. You also have to balance.
Did you agree with the mayor when he did the pegs?
No, because he wasn't doing pegs. What he was doing was a performative dance, I'm using that word a lot with him today, that basically had nothing to do with the crisis, because there was no financial crisis. We actually had billions of dollars in surplus. So as the ex-control, the former control, I'm watching this saying, when did we suddenly have a $15 billion budget deficit? Well, we never did. It was manageable back then. It's even more manageable now. And you just need someone who knows the buck if you're going to know the job of mayor.
We saw this week Jessica Ramos endorse Andrew Cuomo. And, you know, I listened to Catherine Garcia recently, who said that she maybe should have done some cross-endorsing when she was running for mayor. Have you thought about doing that in the final days before early voting?
Yes, and I'm still going through it. I really, first of all, believe that...
So you will cross-endorse them?
Well, I said to myself early on, you know, this job is so important. The first consideration can't be about yourself. It has to be about who you think would be the second best mayor. So I'm at the debates, I've been at the forums, I'm getting to know the candidates, so I have a good idea.
Who is it?
Well, I'm not gonna tell you today, because I think things have to play out. We're having a debate coming up Thursday night. That'll be very telling. And then
voting's in 4 days. You could say it right now.
Well, I could. Could I have another half hour if I did? You know, we'll see. But it's under consideration.
Okay. Mr. Stern, giving everybody equal time. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.